And a good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're located here in the greater United States. My name is Daniel B., and I am here hosting Guitar Shop today, sponsored by Guitar for Vets and Challenge America and Veterans for the Arts community. And we have a great show going on today. We're going to be talking about acoustic amplifiers. We're going to tell you how you can mic them, how to mic your voice, and also how possibly, if you don't have an acoustic electric guitar, how to set up a pickup on it. So without further ado, let me please introduce my panel today. We have a great one with my usual good friend and mentor and who I co-host at times, too. Today I get the hosting duties. I get to control everything. Ha ha ha.
The
Mr.
man
Tom
in
Lamog.
control. Hey, Daniel, how are you?
Oh,
And
we're
everyone?
doing.
Good to see you
Tom,
all.
can you tell everyone what the reason is for the guitar shop?
The reason for Guitar Shop, of course, we're all part of the virtual community, and occasionally we have the urge to go into a guitar shop, but how do you simulate something like that? How do you actually go looking at the different products, the different guitars, the different accessories, and all the things they have in a guitar shop? Well, to do that virtually, yeah, you can do that, but we want to help you. We want to be the guide. We want to be the one to show you some of the things that are in a guitar shop, maybe new to you, and then hopefully you'll gain enough confidence where you can actually go in and maybe know a little bit about some of the things that you want to shop for, whether it be pedals or amplifiers and of course guitars. So we come to you every second Saturday of the month, 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern, and we hope that we will send some information your way that is interesting, it's informative, and also fun as well too. So today should be a great conversation as
Oh,
well. We've
we
got
got
a lot to talk about.
we have some great panelists today. We have Mike O'Connell, who is a G4V instructor and also a gigging musician, and he will be talking to us about amplifiers. And also Mr. Rich Haas. Mr. Rich will be talking about putting pickups into your already existing electric or your already existing acoustic guitar that is not an acoustic electric. And he is also going to help with some of the co-hosting duties today. And Mr. Tom Lamog is going to talk to us about microphones, microphoning that guitar, setting it up if you want to play to your family, or if you should want to go out to a jam, or you do decide you wish to start pushing your talents to performing in front of a live audience, and he'll turn this on to all the different types of microphones that are available, or some of the different, not all,
So
some
many,
of
I
the
know.
different.
And
Yeah,
wait a
too
minute,
bad he didn't
there's
have all.
also
He'd have a suitcase full
there's
of.
also that singing thing too that
Oh
some
yes,
people
and
it's like,
definitely
oh
sing,
no, not that
definitely
too. Well, you got to
singing.
mic. Oh, I
Oh
want to mic
yes,
that
we
too.
get to,
So,
and we get to hear all that, and we're hoping that one day we hear Mr. Paul Lilley sing for us. So anyway, let's we'll continue on here, and Mr. O'Connell, if you would please uh talk to your little Roland AC 33 you have right there that he's going to be using, and he's also got a microphone set up for his presentation here. Mike, I'm leaving it to you.
Great, dangerous, but I'll take it. So let me ask you, can people ask questions during the presentations or do they have
Of
to
course.
wait?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you have any questions, folks, plan them to the chat. And Mr. Haas is going to be uh, monitoring the chat to answer your questions as we go along. At the end of all this, we will have another extensive question and answer period.
Fantastic. Okay, so acoustic guitar amplifiers. Just a little backstory. I started playing Matter of fact, I'm gonna show you something. This is an illegal copy of a Martin. You can study the history of Yasuma and Company from the 1970s. It's my actually 53. No, my 1960s. It's my first acoustic guitar. So I've had that for well. I'm older than dirt, just about. So you'll let you figure that out. But I've been playing acoustic since I was 14. I'm now 71. I'll give you that one. And along that journey, acoustic, by the way, is a great instrument. You can pretty much take it anywhere. It comes in different sizes. You already know this. And you can perform. It is, in essence, its own amplifier, right? The sound comes out the hole. It's not like a keyboard that you have to plug into a speaker. But at some point, I said, you know what? I'd like to experiment with amplifiers. I'd like to learn a little bit more about how my acoustics sound. And I've bought other acoustics since then. And then I decided, you know what, this is pretty decent. I think I'll get out and I will test the waters and sit out in front of the local Trader Joe's, right, or wherever I happen to have been. And let me just start performing for people with this little amp, by the way, a microphone, and my guitar. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I kind of want to convey to you that journey in the sense of what's the equipment, what was I looking for, what you might look for. And then I'll go just a little bit beyond the amp to kind of help you understand a little bit more in terms of getting sound from that acoustic. I will show you a couple of mics. I won't talk about them. That's later in the show. Okay. So this is, by the way, the subtitle of this is How to Drive Your Neighbors Crazy. This is an AC33. It's a Roland amplifier. It's an acoustic amp. It is battery powered, which makes it really portable, and you can also plug it in to save the batteries. So it's essentially an amplifier. What is it? It's a device that has typically a speaker attached to it. You have to either plug in some speakers or you put it together like this, and it takes a signal from, in this case, the guitar cable. And it takes that signal from the guitar to the amplifier, and it amplifies it. It makes it louder. That's the basics of an amplifier. And you'll see that in terms of an acoustic electric, you'll have what's called a preamp in that body. And so you know you have a preamp because you have a hole in somewhere in the guitar to plug the cable into here. And you'll have some controls, some treble, some bass, and some volume controls on this guitar. So that's what makes it an acoustic electric, and if you add to your own pickup later, as will be discussed, you'll see that that's possible for for all acoustic guitars, pretty much. So it takes that signal, and then it not just amplifies it though, it actually tones the signal and treats the signal with electronics or tubes if you have a nice old amp, and it will allow you to then smooth out some of that signal. And I say signal, the guitar tones that are coming in through that cable, in the form of electricity. So for example, this amp has volume control, it has bass, it has mid-range, which is sort of the mid-range, and we're talking about guitar sound frequencies, right? Between the bass and the high ends. And then it has a treble, or the high-end notes that you would get off your thin E string, your first string, and up the fretboard. So that's one of the things you want to look for. The other is that this amp has some extra controls. So for example, it has a reverb on it, a knob that I turn, and I'll demonstrate this in a little bit here, but it has a knob that I turn, and so it gives sort of an echo. And we use that to essentially thicken out the guitar signal, so it doesn't sound like blink, it sounds like blink, right? Little nicer. It also has something called ambience on it as well, which is a little more of a kind of a wavy sound. And it has a switch for chorus, and I'll demonstrate that too. But those are the sounds that you typically use with an acoustic guitar. So you could find an amplifier that has all of the electronics that you need, with all the tone controls that you need, without having to go for extra pedals or things of that nature. This particular amplifier is 30 watt, and so it's big enough for tiny gigs, small gigs, or even a little street performance. But it also, I want to show you something on the top here. It has not only this row of controls and this input jack for the guitar, but it has a microphone jack here. It's actually a combo jack where I have a little 1/4-inch cable, like the guitar cable I showed you, that I can put in here, or I can use what's called an XLR cable. And I'm going to get it close. The ends look like this. That's typically what you use for microphones. And that'll come in handy if you decide to mic your guitar. Okay, so any questions so far? No? Okay. So what else can you look for? Well, go into a guitar shop, plug in an electric acoustic, and listen to the sounds coming out of the amp. That's the nicest way to select one. The size of the speakers matters. If you only have small speakers, you're not going to get all the bass tones. If you have large speakers, they typically give you a little smaller speakers in there to get both the high-end treble tones and the bass and mid-range tones out of an amp. They come in all sorts of sizes and shapes. I started out with a Fender Acoustasonic Junior amp, which is only a plug-in amp, but it's bigger than this. It had similar controls as what you'll see here. And so, you go to the guitar shop or listen to amps online, right, through a good set of headphones as people, demonstrate them before you decide which one you want to get. Okay, so let's keep going here. So what would you like to have on them? I already mentioned the input jack for the guitar. I already mentioned the microphone if you want to sing. You don't have to get one with 2 inputs, by the way. You can just get one with a guitar jack. They typically come with a mic jack, but you'll find one. Definitely it's going to have the treble, the bass, and the reverb, right? The equalizer on top of it with the knobs. I would definitely get one with chorus, because that just makes an acoustic guitar sound like a lot of the songs you've heard out there, especially in the earlier, the 60s, 70s, and even beyond that. You'll hear a lot of chorus in those songs. And then this one happens to have an anti-feedback switch. Feedback is when, and I can't demonstrate it because the way I've set it up, but feedback is when, you plug the guitar in, you turn up the volume on the amp, you go boom, and it goes, right, or it goes whoa, one of those two. Pick your flavor of pain, and that's because the amp is sending out the volume, the sound from the speakers. It's hitting your guitar. If we're not talking about a mic guitar now, right? We're talking about plugged in. It's hitting the guitar, it's vibrating the guitar, which then sends that signal back through the pickup, right out to the amp again, and it goes around and around and around, and it just is a mess. Okay, so the anti-feedback switch can help with some of that. The other things that help with feedback are sound hole covers. It's a little rubber cover. You slip it under the strings into the sound hole, and it does deaden some of the sound, but if you're plugged in, right, it's an acoustic electric, then you're still getting all of the pickup tones for the most part that you would normally get, and yet it stops that sound from coming back into the guitar as much and causing that feedback loop. The other is if you're using a microphone, it's a little more problematic because you need the sound hole open, and then it's a matter of positioning the amp away from the guitar, away from the microphone, actually. And the same applies to if you're plugged in, you're using a cable for your guitar. You kind of aim it away from the guitar so the sound can't get back in the hole. You'll experience feedback, and you'll learn really quickly how to adjust things so it doesn't happen. So that's another thing that you should look at, feedback switch on it, or feedback kill switch on it. Okay. Acoustic guitars. Any questions there?
Hey, Mike. Hey,
Yeah.
I think your reverb is turned up a little. You might want to
You're
cut
right.
that.
It is. Thank you. Okay, that was actually ambiance.
Cool. That works really nice.
That was ambiance, by the way.
Oh, I felt
Excuse
it.
me.
Yeah. I felt
There you
like,
go.
yeah, I was
And the chorus was on. How's that? Is that flatter?
excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, good. Okay, so acoustic needs a preamp, and these pickups, right? They're generally considered what you might call active, but there's a battery that goes in here. It provides a signal going into the amplifier itself, and so that's something you have to think about changing the battery once in a while, so that preamp can do its job. And that's unlike an electric guitar, which has no preamp, and which means the signal is a lot weaker. But that's a whole nother story. To expand on the amp a little bit, sometimes you can get one that has a control pedal, so you can turn on and off the chorus or the reverb at will. Right? So there's some other things that you can look for. So I recommend that you Google what to look for in an acoustic amp, and then start to look at what they're telling you. I don't have a particular reference, but you'll find a lot of them. And you certainly ask questions here. Okay. So let's see. I was gonna do one last little thing.
Oh, please do.
Let me do that. Okay. So I'm gonna demonstrate two sounds for you, just so you get a difference. You say, well, why might you want to mic a guitar? And so the one reason is because it sounds like this. If you put chorus into that and some reverb, it sounds like this. And then I'm gonna, so everybody heard that? Okay.
We lost your mic.
Maybe now's a good time to do a play-by-play, as Mike is now switching out. And
We don't have your microphone on.
Yeah,
Michael.
he's actually going through the amp. That's why. So
We lost your audio, Mike.
yeah, there you go. All right.
Switches. So I'm going to run it through not the microphone this time, but the piezo pickup here by plugging it in here. Not with a cable, because these are wireless transmitters, and the cable trips me up all the time. So I'm going to unplug this, turn this off, and what you're going to hear is the acoustic guitar through the pickup.
Nothing.
Maybe turn it back on. There you go. All right. Mike's going to have to step us through that process of turning off the amp. That's an important
switches
piece.
And knobs and buttons to push, but so you compare that with this. This should sound with this microphone more like an acoustic guitar than the piezo pickup did. So that's just a sample of what the difference is. Okay.
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
Mike, we've got a question here.
Sure.
Yes.
Someone wants you to explain the difference between an acoustic amp and an electric amp. Can't you play the acoustic through an electric amp?
Okay, so if you can use an electric amp with an acoustic guitar, it's again, all these amps do is take the electrical signal. It doesn't care where it gets it from. Your iPhone, right? Your little pod thingy, doesn't care. And then it treats it in some way. Electric amps will typically treat that signal for electric sounding styles of guitar, right? They may have things like overdrive switches on them, or other kinds of electric sounds. And some even have a rotary that will let your acoustic guitar sound like an electric guitar, or vice versa. And so it's just a different way to treat the signal. If you want a nice acoustic sound, though, which is what I think you should go for to start with, look for acoustic amps.
Definitely.
And then you'll get like the rest of us. You'll collect a dozen of those things, and they'll collect dust in the closet.
Hey, Mike,
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know you were turning off the amp and turning it on, and that's one of the things about owning an amp is that when you plug in and unplug and all that stuff, can you leave the power turned on while you do that?
So so yes, you can if you want to hit this loud pop, right? Half the time. Sometimes I get lazy and I just turn the volume down on a different amp, which is hard to reach the switch. I just turn the volume to 0, and that cuts off the signal to the amp as well. But no, technically you're supposed to turn it off anytime you plug and unplug something. Thank you.
Some amplifiers have a standby switch. Standby switch means you don't have to turn your power off. A lot of tube amps will have that because you want your tubes to be warmed up before using the amplifier, so they're always on. And if you use and it also helps to protect your tubes with power surges for electric
Yeah.
guitar.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, Michael,
Okay.
very, very, very great, very good presentation. It was very educational for sure. Um, so let's step up from that. Okay. So you were talking about, Mike was talking about pickups that were in the guitar, and there's various types of pickups that you can have. Uh, and in the case of Mike, he had his was set up with what I would know as a piezo setup, which would be they would be in the bridge underneath the saddle, and they have a preamp to amplify tones and to uh, so you have some control over feedback and the volume of the guitar itself also. But what if you don't have that? And that's why we have Mr. Rich Haas here, our onboard luthier, guitar repairman, uh, also a member of you were a member of Cav Arts. Am I wrong, Rich?
No, that's true.
And we call on him when we need our technical advisor around. And so, Mr. Haas, you have something to talk to us to adding a pickup to your existing acoustic guitar that does not have an already installed system.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Daniel. I had to do a little bit of research because I don't do a lot of work with amplifying guitars because I'm one of the purists who like acoustics because acoustic guitars are beautiful, and we've talked about how every piece of wood inside the guitar makes it special and sweet. But sometimes you're working on the street, you need to get some cash, so you can buy one of those expensive microphones or amplifiers. Or you're in a bigger room or playing with a group. So there are times when you need to add on a pickup. Now, the pickup is it's called the transducer. What it does, it just takes energy from either vibrations or magnetics and sends it electrically to the amplifier or through a preamp to the amplifier. I started doing some research, and what I did learn for sure is that there are literally hundreds of opinions on which is best. There are a lot of options on what types to use. And everyone's got a little different way of defining it. Matter of fact, even the language to identify the sound is a little bit different from user to user. Excuse me. I kind of break them into two types of pickup that we can add on to our guitar. One is called magnetic. What it does, it takes the magnetic energy from the strings, just like on an electric guitar, and it converts that to electricity and sends it over to the amp or the preamp. And the other type, it takes a sound wave or a vibration, and then converts that to electricity and sends over to the amplifier. So those are the two basic types that I kind of simplify. Let me show a couple pictures that might show you kind of what they look like. This is it's an illustration of a clip-on microphone. Mike was talking about how microphones, they've got a broad range of acoustic abilities. Sometimes you want to just put the mic on your guitar itself if you don't want all the sounds around you to get amplified. So this little guy, these are the clamps. You can adjust those to clamp them on the side of your guitar, and then that's the the microphone itself. That's one type of microphone that we can add to a guitar. This is an internal type microphone. And what this is, it's a small microphone that you put in the box of your guitar, and then you run the cable. Now, actually, on most of these add-on pickups, you can run a cable outside the sound hole or outside the location where this is at and plug it direct into a preamp or an amplifier. but that leaves you with an exposed cable to trip on or move or whatever. But it also makes the equipment more mobile. You can connect and disconnect. So this is an internal microphone. So it takes the vibrations inside the box of your guitar sound box. This is another type of microphone, and what this does, you mount it. This is the inside of your guitar, and you mount this amp, this microphone to the peg. I mean, the bridge plate on the inside of your guitar, and the vibrations from the strings and through the bridge get amplified through there and out. Now, this type is almost always run through the back of your guitar. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Piezos are real common. What it is there's this it's a fabric metallic sensor that sits underneath the saddle of your guitar, and then the vibrations from your saddle and your strings will vibrate it, and the rest of this goes through your sound box and out. Typically, these are mounted through your guitar, and the cable would go out the back end where your strap button is. It has to be drilled. These aren't my favorites, although these are used in most fabricated, most sold acoustic electric guitars. It's, they're not obvious. They do a nice sound. Some people say they are tinny or a little bit higher of the frequencies. I don't like them because this metallic fabric at the sensor is so touchy that whenever I've touched one, I've managed to screw up more of them than I haven't. So they're very sensitive. If you were to add one, I'd have a luthier do it, because what you wind up doing is you drill a hole through your bridge and also through the back of the guitar, and then you'll wind up having to shorten the height of your saddle because of the dimension that this thing will take up. Otherwise, your action will get a lot higher towards the end. So piezos are very popular, and they work off the vibrations of your bridge and your saddle. The one that has got the most competition in the world and the biggest price range I've ever seen in my life, you can buy a sound hole pickup. You can find them for $30, $40, $50, or you can spend $300 on them. I just don't understand, but with all of this electronics, I see that market growing as there's more advancement in this market. There are so many manufacturers, and I'm sure there are more coming into them. But this is kind of the original pickup, and this is basically what we see in electric guitars, except there's typically a series of 2 or 3. So this works off magnetics. So the string vibration, it activates or excites the magnet in here. This is a small magnet with a coil, and that's what creates the voltage and the current that goes to your amplifier. These are the most popular probably because there are so many people who produce these. Guys like me like them because there's 2 screws here. You can unscrew it and you can take it off your guitar. Purists and good musicians probably have a better ear and would say that it doesn't really reflect the acoustics of your guitar, but it certainly is a good amplifier, good for getting amplification. So that's the typical sound hole, and those are the types that I like because they're really mobile. And same sort of thing. Most of these are mounted, with the cable dangling from the outside. So some people don't like that. And then the other type is, I call it a top transponder. Transponder is just another word for pickup. It just converts the sound, whether it be a vibration or a magnetic wave, to your amplifier. And this is just a little button. So it's like a small amplifier, but it senses the vibrations of your soundboard, and guys will experiment with locations on it and see how the sounds go. Normally they're installed behind the bridge because that's where you get the most flex, most vibration from your bridge and your sounding. Anyway, so those are the basic add-on type pickups. Like I say, there's so much information there. At the end of this, I think I do have a list of a couple of interesting things. I did want to remind you of a couple of things. This type of pickup, although they're very popular, they're not good for, well, you can't use them on nylon strings, period, because it relies on magnetics between the metal string and the coil. So when you're playing on the classical, those nylon strings don't get picked up. So typically on most classical or nylon string guitars, you'll be using a piezo or one of the amplifiers. And the other thought is you can combine these. Some people put an internal amplifier on plus a piezo or one of these. Anyway, so there are people who will combine several of these to get different sounds. It's fun. It's fun to do this and then run them through amplifiers and just get the different senses of the different effects on an acoustical guitar. Let me see. I think no questions yet. I don't know if we've got any more questions on these. Like I say, these are the basic types.
Yes,
I would like,
I was
yes,
going to make a comment at some point, but yeah, on amplifiers.
go ahead.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead,
was going to
please.
say, so you can take any of those pickups, and some acoustic amplifiers are very good, not necessarily this one, very good at treating that signal so it sounds like you've mic'd your guitar and it's pure guitar sound. You can get pedals like, this play acoustic that does the same thing. It puts back the richness of the guitar in the signal so that the audiences hear more of the richness of the guitar as opposed to the tinny piezo sound. So just a thought there.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm going to show some sites that I found interesting just as soon as I can find it.
Hey, Rich.
I won't.
Hey, hey,
Yes,
Rich. While
I am.
while you're looking for that, a
Sure.
good point in adding, uh, the pickup maybe to an existing to add to a pickup that is already in there. So you've got two pickups playing simultaneously. I know that in recording, uh, you can actually do like a stereo effect, with both pickups, where you can take both, you maybe have two outputs now and do stereo effect that way. Or maybe you want to enhance, a certain tone with one of the pickups and another tone with the other pickup. So you don't have to just install your first, but you can install a second as well too. So those are great ideas.
Right. Yeah.
Did I buy enough time?
You know what? We'll post on our website some of the references that I've used, a couple of YouTubers and a couple of other sites, because like I say, there are so many different theories and manufacturers that and price ranges are crazy. I don't understand it. I was looking at Amazon the other day, and I can find a piezo for like $20, and if I go to other sites, I see them running over $100. And I guess I'm not sure I know what the difference is. So it's kind of crazy, and it's a tough decision. And of course when you combine your acoustic guitar itself with the pickup and then the amplifier, who knows what the mixture is going to do. So it's a crazy world out there as far as getting comfortable and knowing for sure what you want. Anyways, that's it. And like I say, the price ranges will scare the heck out of you. You can buy them on Amazon for almost nothing, and you can buy good quality equipment for a lot of money.
You kind of get what you
That's
pay
about
for,
it. If
right?
there are any,
Right.
yeah,
The sound hole pickups can go up into the brands that of pickups that bring you the most supreme quality that bring to an electric guitar. The same way you can, when you go to get electric guitar pickups, if you want to change your pickups, they can get pretty high priced depending on the brand name, depending on the features of the pickup itself. And there you have to start learning how a pickup is made, what it really does, and the different types of pickups there are. So that's where that price range can start getting a little crazy. I know, speaking to the piezo's, they are very sensitive. How the saddle is set into the piezo's can make a difference too, because I had one guitar that actually had a blank spot, and it was because of the way the saddle was set, and it wasn't smooth on the bottom. So those piezos are very, very sensitive to how they're set up. But usually they're not an add-on. They're usually already installed in the guitar when you buy it. If you're buying an acoustic electric, to install one, like as you say, can come into a little bit of your budget also. So you want to watch out for that. I like you, Rich. I think the sound hole ones are excellent, but again, you lose that sonic quality that the piezo would bring. And feedback is the major problem with having an acoustic electric. And as Mike showed us, having the feedback, the sound hole cover or feedback busters, we know them, to help to control that. As far as sonic tone, as far as tones go, if you have a fairly decent acoustic amplifier, acoustic guitar amplifier, they usually cover a pretty good range in their midtones and their bass on their controls to kind of help out to bring that the quality of sound that you want to produce. Thanks so much on that, Rich. And from there,
if I could
go
do
ahead.
one more small point, reason I don't like the piezos, and they're great, I agree, but I've seen some folks kind of mess them up when they're changing strings. So my recommendation is, because they're so sensitive, if you have piezo on your guitar, and that's typically what most of the manufactured guitars will have, just do one or two strings at a time when you're doing a change out of strings, because if that saddle
Exactly.
shifts a little bit,
Good
that's
point.
where I've seen most of the issues with those. It's not so much that's a beautiful piece of equipment when it's put in right and it's taken care of, but yeah, I've seen enough saddles shift when people change strings. So the recommendation there is, it's not bad advice to change one string at a time when you put new strings on, just
Very
so
good
that
point.
nothing gets under the saddle and it doesn't shift. Anyway,
Very
Hey,
good
Rich, I
point.
do have a question for you. Is there at any time drilling involved into your guitar when we're
well,
talking about pickups?
yes, you've got that option with almost all of them. Almost all of them, you can run the cable through the sound box, drill a hole through the bottom pin, the guitar strap pin at the bottom,
Mhm.
and you can feed most of them there. Now, this guitar guy says that just adds the potential for another rattle, and so I
But if you
say,
got it, if you've got it plugged into an amp and you turn the amp loud enough, right?
well, I guess so.
Then there's
Don't
no,
disturb your
there's no
neighbors.
rattle. That's how I
Mike,
deal with
well,
it.
my gang of acoustic purists say, we don't want all of that cabling stuff inside
Oh
our sound
boy.
box. But anyways,
Now let me ask you
that's
this: with respect to powering that thing, batteries, right? I mean, are these are battery operated, right?
the battery. Usually, the difference between a positive and a negative pickup is the little preamp. The preamp is the battery thing that gets more construction requirement. And that's what Mike was talking about.
And is there
So,
usually like a type, like is it a double A or like a
well,
coin
there
or
used to be 9 volters, but now there
uh,
are A's and triple A's. But still, it's just another piece of another piece of equipment inside the sound box or attached, dangling somewhere.
Yeah, and
But
some of that
yeah,
price for those pickups are the preamps. Some preamps are
right,
have much better
right,
electronics than others, and so yeah,
yes.
and there's too many of
For
them out
sure.
there. I'm sorry, just too many.
Oh, no, absolutely, for sure. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Mr. Bjork, you had said something about K&K. Is that a brand name or is it a type
Yeah.
of
It's a
pickup?
brand. It's a brand name. It's a piezo,
Okay.
but it doesn't go underneath the saddle. It actually there's three contact points that are
Right.
on the bridge
Right.
plate, and
Yeah,
then
underneath. Yeah.
so I added that to my 1967 Guild, and they work great.
Well, that's the I think would come under kind of a transducer, but also a microphone at the same time.
I'm not sure. I mean,
Those types.
I
But
like
they
it.
are considered those are considered piezos,
Yeah,
as far as
right.
what I've
Yeah.
seen. And I understand they're kind of a lot better than having to worry about that little metal strip that's in that piezo.
No, yeah, and it's not. You don't see it at all. I mean, it's it's invisible.
No.
And they're
That's
and you
right.
can
Yeah.
get them. I think they're like $100.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had,
The-
I had a luthier install it.
right.
yeah, you'd have to.
And that is
The
one
caution with
thing.
that, the caution
That
with
is-
that is the adhesive on those discs. If you don't take care of the acoustic and it dries and gets high humidity, low humidity, all of a sudden that attachment material starts drying out
Yeah,
and
they're
back
glued.
in and go back.
They're glued in. Now, that is one thing, folks, to be aware of. If you're going to be doing, wanting to do an add-on pickup, depending on the type that it is, some of the sound hole ones actually work with a clamp. There's not any drilling if you don't want or if you're okay with having the cord come out the bottom of your sound hole, or over the top of your guitar. But it's recommended that you see somebody that knows how to do that work if you're
Right.
not confident in doing it yourself. You definitely,
Right.
you don't want to ruin your instrument. So it's best to take it to somebody that does know what they're doing, such as Mr. Haas.
Well, they're even more qualified guys, I'm sure. And there's a question about the Tonewood amp. Hey, Mike, you're a lot more skilled at that than I am, aren't you?
It has a cable. You literally put some magnets inside your guitar. Not hard to do. Whoops, turn it around. Those magnets have the little magnets opposite in the amp itself. It holds it there nice and easily. You plug the cable into the end of the guitar. I won't demonstrate it, but what happens is it listens to the signal coming off your pickup, and then on the inside of this is a little rubber cone, and it literally will vibrate the back of your guitar and use the guitar as the speaker. Now, it has delay, reverb, chorus, tremolo, so it's actually a cute little portable thing. Nobody will see it, and so you're playing guitar and they're going, how the heck are you getting those sounds out of your guitar? Called a Tonewood amp. Have a look at them.
They're pretty cool.
You know what I like about them too? If you've got a heavy headstock where the head has a tendency to tip, it balances it out.
It balances it out, exactly. And you can actually plug it into an amplifier if you want to. So
Yeah, they're kind of interesting. I don't know if anyone is making anything comparable to that yet.
never seen one comparable.
No, I haven't either, but I'm sure they'll be coming.
They're
It's more
affordable,
convenient.
reasonably affordable. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and so now we get to go to old school. Before there was pickups put into acoustic guitars, there was microphones. And not only was it for the guitar itself, it was also for the person playing the guitar, should they want to sing, to make an addition to their performance. And with that, I lend myself to Mr. Tom Lamog, my friend, my mentor, my buddy.
You're too kind. You're too kind. But you guys aren't going anywhere because this is going to be one of those panel discussions. And guess who else I'm bringing in? And he doesn't know it.
Mr. Paul.
Because the reason why we're going to have this panel discussion is because microphones, we're not going to get into the technical details, but I would really like to know, I want to poll the group as performers, your favorite mics. I'm going to share some of mine and also talk about some of the considerations. And then I'll point you into a website where you can actually do more of the geeking out that we're not really going to do here. When I first started playing live, when that was about 20 years ago or so, I was looking for a microphone. I didn't really know what to look for. Probably like yourselves, if you're a G4V grad or maybe just starting out. You know, there was the idea of, well, let's see, what type do you want to get? There are so many types, but the two that I remember focusing my attention on most, and guys, maybe you can chime in on this, was the dynamic microphone and the condenser microphone. Those two types seem to be the popular ones. The ones that I would see on stage when I would go to a concert would be the Shure 58, SM58. You know, looks kind of like this. You'll see newscasters, broadcasters, even rock country performers using this particular mic, and it's been around forever. And some of the reasons behind this mic being so popular is well, you can hammer a nail with it. It's just durable.
Yeah.
It feels really tough. And I've taken this on so many gigs with me. Um, the microphone itself, it's got wind resistant. Like if you want to kind of sing into it, which I do all the time, there is the built-in windscreen. It's got a lot of frequency to it from the high end to the low end, so I can sing, or I can double this as an instrument mic, my guitar mic as well too. But this is one of the popular ones that I was steered towards, was the 58, the SM58. One more that's popular from the Shure family, and this is definitely, you're going to see a lot of those amps, and it's definitely my personal preference. But the 57, the SM57, was like, the predecessor to the 58. But, I think the difference between these two microphones, these are both dynamic microphones. The really neat thing about these is, again, they're so respected in the industry. And all of the reviews that I've read, all of the things that I've read, all of the information that my colleagues, people that I've spoken with, musicians, they're picking either the 57 with a windscreen, which I don't have with me right now, but there's a windscreen that you put in front of that particular microphone to reduce the amount of popping, with P, and the sibilance as well too with S. So, and we can look at that at some other point in time, but those two microphones deal with that very well. And you can use them interchangeably for instruments as well as vocals. So those are upwards to 100, maybe 150. If you're looking in terms of pricing, an alternative to that would be another dynamic microphone, the Sennheiser 609. I don't use this as much because I really do like those Shures. I'm a Shure guy, I suppose. But this is another one of those popular microphones that you can sing in, or you can mic your guitars if you want to do that. And I know Mike is going to talk about miking guitars after I'm done here. A real inexpensive, which really surprised me. I don't have the model number here, but Shure actually put out the PGA 48. PGA 48, I mean, it's just as durable and strong. It doesn't have quite the frequency response, the high end, capturing the real highs of your vocals or your guitars. But it does an adequate job if you're just doing a living room gig, or maybe it's something in your garage, or maybe you're going to a jam and you want to sing and play, or even mic your instrument. But this was like $40. Yeah, my kind of microphone for sure. So those are my microphones. You guys have any that you want to share that you're really proud of using? I mean, there are so many that are out there. This is just like what Rich was talking about. There are so many choices, but maybe you guys have one or
My
two.
only requirement
Here's
for a
that pop
microphone-
screen you were talking about, Tom.
Definitely
Finger
windscreen.
puppet. Yeah.
Look, the finger puppet.
Go.
These
My
go
only-
over the microphone, and they help with that, with
The
wind,
windscreen, yeah.
hearing the wind, and when you're popping, you're saying your P's,
P's and S's. Yeah.
P's and S's.
Yeah, I think-
Go ahead, Paul.
My only requirement for a microphone is it has to have auto tune.
Oh, that. Well, I don't have that, but
That's this. That's to play acoustic.
Put that vocal through a processor.
Yeah, absolutely. All the pros do it. Yeah.
yeah, of course.
I started out miking with the Beta 57A, the Shure, and then I had dual Laughtons, LA 120 matched pairs because, as somebody mentioned, when you're looking for sound coming out of the guitar, one mic you kind of do it up here on the strings, but you can also put another mic down here to get more of the bass tones out of the guitar, and then you blend those right in your digital audio workstation.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and speaking of which, I want to go back to some of the other features worth considering before I show you just a couple of different condenser microphones. But does it have built-in power switch? Right? Does it have the on-off switch? And let me tell you, there are times where it's like, I wish I had an off switch. Otherwise you have to make sure that whatever your microphone is plugged into, and there's a pedal that Mike was showing. There's probably a tuning button or a mute button there, but that would be such a nice convenience. The other thing to consider, at least when I was shopping around, was the diaphragm. Is it a large diaphragm, which you can use for just about any type of recording? A small diaphragm would be like acoustic guitar. If I want to mic my acoustic guitar, small diaphragm compared to the large diaphragm would be better. I'm sorry if I said diaphragm. Where's my cup of coffee? But those are a couple of considerations that I had to think about and do some research on. Most of the microphones that I use are the small diaphragm, but when we move into like the condenser microphones, like this Rode T1, which fairly omnidirectional, you start to you think about, well, let's see here. This is going to capture everything in the room. So if I'm using this in my studio, and I have problems with the sound bouncing off of the walls, this microphone is going to pick it up. Whereas this dynamic microphone, its polar design, as they call it, whatever is the microphone is able to listen to, it's not going to pick up that reflection. So that's the downside or the upside, if you want, of a condenser microphone. It's going to likely capture everything around it. I use this primarily in the studio, but if you're, say, for instance, maybe you're a bluegrass player, Bruce, maybe you have no pickups or amps being used. You're all just kind of playing naturally around it. This condenser microphone is the ideal situation for that. And then you guys see me use this if you're hitting my live events. This is also a condenser microphone. It's a headset microphone. But here's the really cool thing about headset microphones and vocals is you don't have to bring a stand. You don't have to, you have to lug. It's kind of like if you're just bringing your amp and you're bringing, your guitar and you're just bringing a headset microphone. This is a condenser microphone. I'm set, as a one-man band kind of a thing. So
just don't put it up too close to your nose.
Because it does hear everything. It does hear everything. There's one other consideration, and that's the polar. Really, it's called the polar image. What is it that the microphone is able to bring in? And on this 58, this SM58, and I've got a SM58, the beta, just like Mike was talking about, the 57, the 58. You're going to hear, or the microphone will pick up what's coming in front of it, but likely not from the backside of it. All right, unless the microphone is designed that way. And when it came to performing live, I did not want to pick up the audience noise. So this, this particular microphone, this dynamic with a cardioid design from a polar standpoint, as they say, was ideal for me. But really, is there a one size fits all with these microphones? No.
No.
I'll tell you that right now. No. But if you're starting out with wanting to do vocals, you're going to have to experiment. I like this PGA 48 it was good enough for me, and it was cheap. It worked fine. But if, say, for instance, you're deciding that you're wanting to maybe accompany Scotty Hastings on his next tour, then you might want to upgrade to something a little, a little more professional sounding. But it's really your choice, just like everything else. Go in, try it out. Maybe they'll set you up in a sound room. Um, but yeah, so there's your spiel on microphones, and I am no expert. This was all from my learning experience and becoming a performer and getting out there and gigging. And I don't know. I'm going to add Bruce back in as a panelist as well too. But
One thing I'd like to add to microphones, when you're purchasing a microphone, you want to see if it's a microphone that needs a battery, because they do have them, or has to have phantom power, which phantom power is usually comes from the mixer that you're plugging into, or sometimes the Paul's shaking his head.
condensers definitely
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
phantom
the
power.
condenser
Yeah,
mics
condensers
are
are
the
always,
ones
yeah,
that need
phantom
the
power.
phantom power.
Here's a little, by the way, here's a little portable phantom power box I just put in line because my amp
yeah.
doesn't provide phantom power.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I
that's
was
another
just going to say
consideration. Yeah,
that. Thank you, Mike.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
There you go.
God, I
I was
love
trying
this
to help you
panel
out.
we have today. And Bruce, you mentioned something toward, if you can, make this very quick because we're getting short on time. He uses certain microphones for his some of his bluegrass instruments, as we
I,
talked to
oh yeah.
before.
So there are systems you can get for a dobro and a banjo. It basically it's a dynamic mic, and it clips onto the bridge plate on the tailpiece of the dobro or the brackets on a banjo, and they work great. It's a gold tone, and it even comes with a preamp, so you control. It's got some EQ. The other thing I mentioned is that if you're playing in a big venue that has a sound system, I use a sine house. This is an E609, and it just lays over the right by it just lays over the speaker on the amplifier, so that you can
Right.
get the amplifier go through the house system, and they work great. And I use it for pedal steel, with depending what amp I use. I use this for all my amps.
All right. Well, I think, did you have anything else, Mike?
I was just going to kind of augment one of the things I did looking for a microphone. I said, what are the standard vocal microphones that are out there in the market? You'll come up with that SM58, for example, every time. And what are the standard microphones for for miking guitar? And once you get there, then you can dive into, well, why is it this mic versus that mic? And there's patterns and everything else. But that's a good way to start. What is everybody using, right?
Exactly. Good point. Very good point. Well, I don't think I have any time. Well, let me give you guys just a quick tip of the month here. And that's going into the guitar shop. And say it's your first trip going in. You want to not go in looking like you just changed the oil on your 57 Chevy, or like you just wrestled a bear on the ground in the mud. Try to be clean going in. Great tip is to get to know the people that work in your guitar shop, your local guitar shop or music stores. They have the most valued advice on if you're just going in, not having a lot of knowledge of what you're looking for. They're more than helpful to help you, or happy to help you. And it goes beyond just trying to sell you something. They're most people that work in guitar shops are musicians, working or otherwise. And then the last thing is, if you're going in and you want to try out the guitars or try out the amplifiers, again, get those people, unless you're familiar with the store itself, to help you out with how you want to, or what you want to check out, what you want to test drive. Don't go grabbing the most expensive guitar that's in there and knocking it around and stuff. It's not so much that you have to ask permission because they usually do have demo models that are right on the floor that are right uh, at your fingertips. And so upon that, let's go in and get a little bit of question and answer. I think we can, everybody can open their mics. If you can unmute everyone for me, Tom.
Hey, Tom, can you use that FM58 to mic electric guitar amp through a PA?
What are you saying as far as going to your or from your amplifier, miking it on your amplifier?
Yeah, like on your amplifier, put it right in front of the grill, or is there a different type of mic for that situation?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
58
people do
will
that.
work.
Yeah, the 58, the 57.
The 57.
Yeah, the 50. I use the 57 primarily. I have a 57 beta, so that's my first choice, and then I do have the Sennheiser 609, which I also use as well. But just so you know, I mean, depending on your situation, if say for instance, this is just an intimate gathering of friends, and you're playing maybe a large conference room or something, or over at the local tavern or something, that should do just fine if you need to kind of push that through the PA speaker, the PA system.
How about a hot overdriven tube amp?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dan, you can speak to that one for sure.
The diaphragms will or the like the 57 to 58, there are actually microphones you can get that are made to use for sound reinforcement application, and the brands and model numbers are extensive. But a 57, a 58, they're such a good all around. I'm not saying that's in my opinion. I'm not saying that's what you got to go out and run and get, but they work. They can handle the pressure. I wouldn't put them on a drum. There's definitely microphones that are designed to use on drums. But as far as as far as using for sound reinforcement later on to go through a PA, yeah, absolutely they'll hold up.
Okay.
Joel's got plans to rock.
Hello?
Heavy blues.
I want to jump in here because you're not mentioning anything about cables. And in my own experience, I had to go and replace some of mine with the L shape just because the guitar was sitting on a stand and the jack input was hitting where the guitar rested. Not only that, but did I want braided versus, standard coating, on the outside, that rubberized coating, and then the length as well, and making sure that it was the right type, like you said earlier, XLR versus 1/4 inch. So, and then the quality of the cables, you can go to Amazon or eBay, but if you go to your guitar store and you get like I think Pig Hog I have, and a couple of other things. So I just want you guys to make any comments about the cables. Thank you.
So Robin, those pig hogs are almost virtually indestructible. I was trying to remember which one of them. I don't know if any of you are into Craftsman tools, but they have a lifetime warranty. So if you get a wrench that's 15 years and you break it, you could get a new one. There's a couple cable companies are doing that. And if none of you know who they are, we'll post that later in the community. Obviously, they're a little bit more expensive up front, but they honor that lifetime warranty. So if something goes out on the cable, I hear what you're also saying about the right angle. The other side of that is if you play a lot of Fenders where the pickup slides into, or excuse me, where the 1/4 inch slides into the guitar, those right angle ones don't work so well. Some of them are buffered out a little bit with the cap, so it's just not a tight fit. But I do like them for the ends of the guitars or for the bottom of the guitars.
Yeah, a number of different cable manufacturers come to my mind. My personal preference is the Monster cables. It can depend on how rough you are on your cables, if you're dragging them across a concrete floor or if you're just going across a carpet. The on the other side of that is wireless, and one day we'll speak to wireless.
Before you get off cables, Daniel, if I'm remembering it right, there's somewhat of a new, or at least new to me, Snake cable company. You buy their cables and they come in nice little rope bags, and their thing is they never kink. So
Right.
it's the way they're made that they just won't wrap on themselves. The downside is they're kind of heavy, and it's a heavier cable altogether. And if you end up buying the 20-foot cable, it's got a lot of weight that it seems to be putting on the back of the guitar.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And yeah, like you said, to the right angle. Now the XLRs are usually going to be the XLR versus a 1/4-inch inputs or 1/4-inch cables. The XLRs are balanced, which means they have a third wire that's running through them to a neutral. So you don't have the buzzing. It kind of holds down the buzzing and stuff. Usually more used for, well, I actually have one on one of my acoustic electrics. There's an XLR jack plus a 1/4-inch jack. But usually they're for microphones, and it's for noise reduction, line noise reduction. Anything else?
Yeah, one last
Go
thing
to
on
me,
that.
Mike
What's your take,
Manchester. Oh, gotta run. Oh, sorry. See you, Mike.
what's
Mike
your take
Manchester.
on the wireless systems where it plugs into the guitar and then transmits? Is there any delay on that? Thank you.
The latency on that can depend on the brand and how far you are away from the amplifier or from the either the amplifier or the receiving station if you have one that's has a separate receiver.
This is definitely a topic that we need to cover at some future, because
We will.
we're talking about are you using the 2.4 gigahertz or the 5 gigahertz? Because
five.
there's a significant difference, particularly if the band is being used by microwaves and cell phones and all that stuff. So
Good
those are
point.
definite considerations. Bluetooth, I've had problems using Bluetooth type of devices, but again, these are things that we have to do a deeper dive on, and we may end up taking a half hour or something like that, don't you think, Dan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you got VHF, the UHF.
Hey, one more thing on amps. We haven't really talked about amps, but there's kind of this new, I don't know if it's a marketing thing coming out for amps called teaching amps. So if any of you are familiar with the Spark amps, they're really they're getting a lot of market share. They're a lot of fun. They come with a really nice app. And what's unique about these is it's really easy. Like if you want to learn a song, it's really easy to put the song into the app and it goes to YouTube. It brings up a video of the song. It transcribes the chords. So you can see it on the app while you're going through the app. The amp will also listen to you just jam and then give you several choices of different genres of a jam tracks, including basses and drums. So it's kind of got this listening AI where it listens to what you're doing in your beats per minute and then gives you something that you could play against. So there's a lot of, and I think there's some acoustical modeling amps. It's all modeling amps. So they did think about the acoustic player. They didn't go all with Marshalls and Fender amplifiers. So they're a lot of fun.
And I think on that, why don't we let's see, Tom, you have coming up
We have a
songs
lot coming up. Yeah, we have a lot coming up.
ton coming up.
We do. I know, let's see, wasn't the next stop the Guitar Brigade? Is that the
Yeah,
next
so
stop?
the brigade's on the 15th. We're doing couple different systems and ways to know your fretboard, short of memorizing them, although that might be one of the ways that's mentioned, but we've wanted to talk about other ways. And then we're cutting this one in half, so half on that and then half on finger picking, getting started with finger picking.
Cool.
Awesome. And then Song Sung True, Derek Stoner. He's based out of Missouri. He is a 20-year veteran. He's a Special Forces Army and a Green Beret. Singer-songwriter's played 200 times during the pandemic in 1 year, and he's coming out with a new album. So I'll be talking to him on Thursday. The following Tuesday, you may have heard of Scotty Hastings, who is our G4V ambassador. Well, he was signed to a record company, and now let's just say that his image is posted all over Nashville on billboards. He's that up and coming, and he got to meet Garth Brooks, his idol. He's recorded some fantastic music. He's the following Tuesday. And then Hero Stock president Jason Steiner, and he's going to be bringing along Joe Allen Christie to help him get through his Song Sung True Veterans Day the following week, which is the 29th of May. And that's what's happening on the horizon for us.
One more in May. On May 30th, we're doing our first cross collaboration with Tandy Leather, and I think we donated 30 leather straps. They're going to be this was made available to Guitars for Vets Learning Center members that were also already members of Tandy. And so on the 30th is going to be the hour-and-a-half event where they're working with, it's not a luthier. What do you call it when you work with leather? The leathier person. But these are all cross collabs, meaning they've already purchased the $200 leather kit. So that's something they already have. But the idea is we're going to create kind of music themed, guitar themed leather straps. And we're giving the students the option to keep it. Or if they want to donate it back to CavArts, they'll use it for their music therapy camp. So we're doing that on the 30th. And then we won't go into the dates, but we got 3 live events planned for the Chord Wheel book. We're pretty excited about the Chord Wheel. We got 40 books out pretty quickly. We have an angel donator who's offered to even pick up some more books for some of those that were beyond 40. And so we're going to check the community. You'll see more coming in about the Chord Wheel.
All right.
Well, on behalf of Guitar for Vets and CavArts, I'd like to thank everybody that was a panelist today. And we're looking forward to seeing you again on the second Saturday of June. And until then, this is Daniel B. with my co-host or partial co-host, Tom Lamog, Mr. Rich Haas, Mr. Michael Connell, thank you. And
Thanks, guys.
also, Paul, thank you for being the great guy that you are.
Thank you for what you guys do. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
We will talk with everyone later. So thank you very much.